I think we owe this to our students. It's our responsibility as educators, both for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students that we might have in the room, but for all of our students to understand the world that they're living in. I think for Spanish in particular, it's pretty obvious that we're teaching a colonial language here in Australia in a setting where another colonial language is the primary language of many of our environments, and engage with what it means to learn Spanish in that kind of context. All of the modern languages, we can understand those languages more deeply if we're asking questions about how languages change in terms of the movement of people, and how those movements of people are shaped by questions of power, violence, displacement, and those issues that are so live in this country and so live in Latin America. I'm Dr. Jane Hanley. I'm the chair of the discipline of Languages and Cultures here at Macquarie University, and my main teaching area is Spanish and Latin American Studies. In the Spanish and Latin American Studies area, we look more at Spanish as a colonial language itself and the ways that Spanish only gives us a partial understanding of Latin America, and we have to engage as well with First Nations people of the Americas. In the discipline, I worked with a project team on a multilingual interdisciplinary project on Indigenous language revitalisation and maintenance, so that we could really try to shake students out of the box of thinking about their language in isolation and think about the language they're studying in terms of the whole linguistic ecosystem of Australia and the world, and all of the languages that have been spoken and continue to be spoken on the lands where they're living and studying. One positive engagement I've seen from students is that they take up, for example, an assessment that we have in Latin American Studies to write about the ethics of engagement with Indigenous communities of the Americas. And so they're exploring that topic for themselves, and they're connecting it to specific communities and specific contexts and thinking about what it might mean for work, for when you're out in the world doing real projects that may impact Indigenous people. In our interdisciplinary project, where we had the funding to pay some experts and some practitioners, it was really our top priority to use those resources to ensure that the voices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people were at the front of everything we were doing, so that we could, commission resources that were explicitly designed for our context and our students' needs, but from the experts in the area. However, that's not always going to be possible. And even where that's not possible, I think there are plenty of opportunities to highlight First Nations voices and build on existing work such that our role as educators just becomes kind of facilitating that engagement. And in a small way, for example, even in preparing for this video, I consulted with a colleague, and she assured me that the takeaway message is that it's a good idea just to always check your thinking and check your approach with a traditional knowledge owner or with someone who has more expertise in this field, so that you are taking that responsibility to your students seriously to do this as well as you can.